What's up guys, Phoenix here. This video is going to be another Yu-Gi-Oh deck profile video, and this time it is going to be on my updated Nekroz deck list for the February 8th adjusted ban list format. Now, those of you know, Shrit has been banned for quite some time, but this deck still strangely has a nice amount of consistency and continuity to it in terms of the plays that it makes, and it still has a lot of power to make a lot of plays. Your game plan has vastly changed from what it used to be, but it's still something that you can play around with and play with and modify and tweak. The only big thing is the fact that Shrit, searching Brio or Trish, and also just being the entire tribute for ritual summons, actually just hurts the fact that that's not around, but you can kind of get around that with other methods and other cards that you will see in this profile. If you watched my stream that I did yesterday, then you will have already seen this deck profile because I kept it up on the screen when we were discussing like stuff like anime and stuff like that. When we were just having general discussion, I left a deck list up, and one of them was this. So you've already seen this, but I'm going to go a little bit in depth on some card choices that I made for the deck and some explanations on certain ratios and things. So still worth it for you guys to watch this if you are interested in hearing about that. But anyway, enough rambling. Time to get into the deck profile. The monster lineup is 10 Nekroz Ritual Monsters, 1 Trishula, triple Valkyrus, 1 Brionac, 1 Catastor, 1 Unicorn, and triple Clissolus. I was playing 2 Trishula for a long time, and then I was playing Decisive Armor, but I ended up cutting it. Colossus at 3 is pretty important because you need to be able to draw these ritual spells. That way you can use your Manju, Sinjus, and Brios to search your other ritual pieces. And then also, it's just being able to use it as a 3 to banish from grave off mirror is always relevant. It's always relevant and always live. In fact, if I could fit a Rhoda in this deck, I would, because it's actually just that real. But as for Catastor is in here because I'm playing Exa because you have to hit those odd levels. And Catastor and Exa being 5s actually helps this. Beforehand, I wasn't playing these cards, and I was playing just Brilliant Fusion to access Seraph Knight and that be a 5. And while that was all cool and all, the issue I was having with the deck was that if you didn't draw Brilliant Fusion, it was very hard for you to summon Valk. So this way, you can like Manju into Brio and get the Exa, and then that also just gives you another guy that gives you a plus when you tribute it off of the Valk, if that's something you're into. And then also Catastor allowing you to bring back Dance Princess, and Great Sorcerer just makes rank 4s easier to access. You know, the 1 Unicorn, that doesn't need to be explained. The triple Valk is obviously your entire engine at this point. Your entire game plan is to summon Valk and then keep cycling cards out through Valk every turn. You make a lot of rank 4s with this deck, and you're able to just get pluses off the Valk and protect yourself with a Valk on board, Valk in hand, and stuff like that. Basically going back to the roots of what Nekroz was good at doing, but without having the fear of the mirror match in your mind, and not having to play around Nekroz or Trishula in the mirror match. You get to just leave this card up, and then just all of the resources that you would use to tribute off for this card to draw cards can instead be used into manipulating and cultivating your boards is the word I'm looking for. For the non-ritual monsters, 3 Manju, 3 Sinju, these cards are still at 3 each, and they're still very powerful. But you do have an increased reliance on them, and that's why you honestly just try to get to them as quickly as possible. But if you have hands where like you have Brilliant Fusion plus Jew, and like if Brilliant Fusion plus double Jews, like those hands are just insane. And like as long as your play doesn't get disrupted, they're basically auto wins because you're just able to amass such a huge board presence and cultivate your way into your plays. Damage Juggler's gone, and that kind of sucks. But in its place, you just play Double Trick Clan and 1 Hat Tricker. I've thought about playing one more Hat Tricker, but if I ever got to the point where I played another Hat Tricker, the better and more ideal solution would probably be to cut a Colossus and cut another card from the deck and play Rhoda and a Photon Thrasher, because that would honestly just be the better thing, because it would preserve the number of Colossuluses in the deck at 3 while removing one, but it would also be a card that thins your deck, and it would be a card that basically is another vanilla that special summons itself, but it would just ultimately serve dual purpose in the deck. So ultimately, I feel like 1 is fine. You do kind of want to draw it a lot, but I mean, still, I don't think a second copy is justifiable, at least not right now. 1 copy of Genomite Garnet for the Brilliant Fusion, and for the Tribute dudes, 1 Exa, 1 Dance Princess, and double Great Sorcerer the Nekroz. I originally started testing this with 3 Great Sorcerer, but I just ended up swapping 1 for a Dance Princess, because Dance Princess being able to get back your banished Brios and stuff like that is always relevant. And this deck cycles through Daigusto Emeralds very, very quickly and very efficiently. Like, you can easily just make 2 in a turn. You can make 1, use it, shuffle cards back, tribute 1 off for Valk, and then make another one. It's very simple. It's very easy. And that's how you keep your engine moving. You keep your resource pool infinite in that method. But you start losing cards when you lose them to the banish zone. So Dance Princess just allows you that. And also the mini kind of Denko Sekka type feel this card has is actually just worth it as well. Exa, obviously, I've already touched on that for hitting those awkward levels. And double Great Sorcerer, because you want to be able to search Valk and also get a plus off drawing. So, like, the Great Sorcerer, it's amazing when it comes up. In fact, I'm still considering bumping this back to 3 and still keeping these 2 copies of cards here. It's very, very good. But for the spells, triple Brilliant Fusion, triple Instant Fusion, triple Kaleidoscope. This card is easily the most important one because you can summon Trishula, Colossalus out of your hand, you can summon Valk Unicorn out of your hand, you can summon Brio Catastor out of your hand. There's a lot of different combinations of cards that you can actually do and hit with Kaleidoscope, and that's why you see 2 12s in my extra deck, and a Star Eater. Like, it's actually incredibly important to use Kaleidoscope to summon multiple ones, although sometimes it's less important, but the hands where it's less important are the hands where you open like Brilliant Fusion, and those hands are very good anyway by themselves without having to spam multiple monsters off the one Kaleidoscope, and you're able to just go with different plays. But double Mirror, double Cycle, just standard-ish. 1 Preparation of Rites, and then 1 Bottomless Trap Hole and 1 Treacherous Trap Hole. Extra deck, 1 Rafflesia, 1 Dweller, 2 Digesto Emerald, 2 Diamond Dire. This is the card that's coming up the most in multiples. It was either the 3rd Digesto Emerald or the 2nd Diamond Dire was what was going to be the 15th card in this extra deck. And the 2nd Diamond Dire just kept coming up because there'd be times where you would want to make Emerald to put a Diamond Dire back, and then you'd still be able to make a rank 4 afterwards. But making the Emerald there would be very dangerous. So instead, what if we just reversed the roles and made the Diamond Dire first and then made the Emerald second with the, obvious ability we had to make 2 rank 4s. So that's why there's 2 copies of Diamond Dire in here, just to out problematic threats. And then Digesto Emerald keeps your resource pool infinite after that, so you can continually make these cards for the remainder of the game. 1 4-Mage Trapeze Magician. It's kind of hard to make now, because the only spellcasters in the deck are the 2 Trick Clowns, the 1 Unicorn, and the Hat Tricker in terms of cards you're going to be summoning. But you can bring these back off Catastor and make it a little bit easier, but it's still a very low number compared to what we had accessibility to in the past. But when you do make it, it is almost always game. Like, it's amazing. This card is insane, and so I would never really consider cutting it. For the fusions, 2 Norden and 1 Seraph Knight for the Brilliant Fusion Instant Fusion package. For the Synchros, for Kaleidoscope, 1 Herald of the Arclight, 1 Star Eater, and then 2 of any 12 if you're choosing. I just choose to play Ultimate Zulkin because I always like to go for style points. Side deck doesn't really matter because, as you see, there's nothing there. If I were to side for this deck, I'd probably side Twin Twisters. I would probably side Decisive Armor just for like back row heavy decks. Obviously Decree, obviously Denko. Denko especially has a lot of merit in this deck because you can summon Denko, then play Brilliant Fusion and get Seraph Knight, and then normal summon your Jew in addition to normal summoner set that you used on Denko. So that becomes very live and active. Rafflesia I like because it gives this deck a huge amount of defense that you're able to just make, and that's the biggest problem. The Nekroz deck never really had defense. Your defense was in the form of cards like Valkyris, preventing your opponent from touching you or just sticking Unicorn on board. But now you have defensive options in the line of Rafflesia, just making these cards live, and that actually just kind of gives back to the deck about what it lost. But I would also probably side Gungnir in this deck too. There's a lot of basically just generic old side options from old Nekroz format. You could actually just side in this deck, and it would honestly just be fine. But anyway, that is all for this video. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe to all the nonsense you usually do. Let me know what you guys think about this Nekroz deck. If you like it or not. I kind of feel upset that a lot of people that are showing interest in Nekroz now never wanted to show interest in them when Shrit was still legal because they were like, this deck's too broken. Maybe they just didn't want to play mirror matches. I mean, I can kind of respect that, but still, I think you really, really hurt yourself by not playing this deck in its prime, because this deck was insane, and this is easily one of the decks that I had the most fun playing with mirror matches. This was one of the few decks that you could sit down in a mirror match and be like, I'm going to win because I'm better than you. Like, this is one of those few decks. It very rarely happens in Yu-Gi-Oh! It happened in Ravine Ruler format. It happened in the latter half of Nekroz format before we got the clowns. There was all of this nonsense that would just be like, you win because you're better than your opponent. It very, very, very infrequently revolved around luck. But obviously there was luck factors in here of like Jin Lock and stuff like that. But, I mean, you get my point. But anyway, clicking at it if you have not. I'd greatly appreciate it. It helps me make money, and there's no reason to lie to you guys about that. If you have an ad block enabled, please disable it. It just helps me out more than you could ever know, and I'd be greatly appreciative of you if that's something you take the time out of your day to do to help support me. It helps more than I can ever stress, and I'm going to keep saying that. If you just click ads, everything will be good on my end, and thus everything will be good on your end, because I'll be able to keep making videos. But anyway, that's all for this video, and as always, guys, take care.